So now that you have the wall layout relatively fleshed out, it's time for some doors and windows. So to add doors and windows, I'm in a file called Doors and Windows, and we're zoomed in here on the upper portion of the floor plan. And over here on the Architecture tab, we have a door icon and a window icon. So I'm going to click the door icon. I'm not going to really change any of the settings, but let me just point out a few of them to you. Here in the Properties palette, we have a drop-down like we did with walls, and that gives us some different size doors. So we have one kind of door. Revit calls that a family. So we have one door family, a single flush, and that door family has several types, they're called. The types are the different sizes. Now, the default size is 36 by 84, and that works fine for me for this, so I'm not going to actually change that. The default sill height is at 0. That makes sense too, because you typically want the door to be right down at the floor. So we're not going to raise it up or lower it down, so I don't need to change that. So I'm pretty good with any of the default settings. The only thing I need to do is place the door. Now, you'll notice that if my mouse is in the middle of the screen somewhere, I get this little circle with the line through it. Basically, Revit's telling me, sorry, I can't put a door there. Well, we get a little bit of a clue down in the status bar of what's going on. The message says, click on a wall to place the door. So before you put your mouse over a wall, you're not eligible to place. If I tried to click, I won't get anything happening. But as soon as I move my mouse over a wall, you're going to see the door appear. Now, Revit has a name for this too. A door is considered a hosted element. And so it requires a wall host before it can be placed. So all your job is to highlight and then click on the appropriate host. So let's say that I wanted a door here between column lines 4 and 5. All I need to do is find the location I want and then click to place the door. Now, we discussed temporary dimensions in a previous movie. Notice that the temporary dimensions remain on screen after you place the door. Now, Revit did a nice job of centering that door directly between the two walls. Maybe you want that door to be positioned a little bit differently. Perhaps I wanted it to be, instead of 11 foot 10 here, maybe I only wanted it to be 10 feet off of that other wall. You can interact with those temporary dimensions with doors and windows the same way that you could with walls. So I can just simply type in 10 and press enter, and the door will move. Maybe the door is not swinging in the right direction. Currently, it's swinging off to the right. Maybe I wanted it to the left. You'll notice these little grips on the door. If you click those, it will change the swing of the door. In fact, we could even swing it into the building or out of the building. You can change the direction any way you like. Now, recall the message down at the bottom of the screen. It said, click on a wall to place the door, and then in parentheses, it said, space bar to flip the instance. So let me show you an example of that. I'm going to move over here to this toilet room. And notice that the door, when I have it swinging into the room, is flipping the wrong way. Now, I could click and place it and then use those little grips I just showed you to flip it, or you can tap your space bar and flip it before you place it. So either one is fine. It's entirely up to you. Let's move over to this one. So now watch. If I subtly move left or right, it flips in the room or out of the room. Tap the space bar to change the direction. If you just kind of keep your thumb on the space bar and move your mouse around on the screen, it becomes very quick and easy for you to place a variety of doors. And so I'm just going to make sure that I have a door going into each of these rooms. And again, keep in mind that if you're not quite satisfied with the location, you can always come in and modify the dimension. Now, once you have those basics down, you know everything you need to know to place windows. It works exactly the same way. So let's cancel out of this command with the Modify tool. On the Architecture tab, let's click the Window button. Here it is on the Properties palette. The family is fixed. The types are these sizes. The default size is a 36 by 48. In this case, I'm going to change that to the larger one, a 36 by 72. The default sill height for that window is 1 foot off the floor. I'm going to raise that up to 2 feet off the floor. So you can make any of these changes you want. And then I'm going to come in here, highlight a wall. It works the same way. You can't place it out in empty space, but you can highlight a wall and click to place the window. I'm going to pan up slightly and place another one, and another one, and another one, and so on. If you want to, you can keep placing them this way, or after you've placed a few, you can escape out of the command. I'm going to double escape to get all the way out. I can select this window, and maybe I want to put a little space here between it. So I'm going to do about 6 feet. Now, let me zoom in slightly here. And let's say that I like having 2 windows and then a space and then 2 more windows. So I want another window the same distance as this one. I'm going to select this window right here. Now, like we saw in the Dimensions movie, when you select an object, Revit takes you to the Modify tab. On the Modify tab, we have a series of Modify tools. We looked at the Move tool in that movie, but let's look at the Copy tool in this movie. The Copy tool works exactly the same way as Move. I'm going to click it. You still need to indicate a base point and then a new point for the copy. Well, in this case, I want this distance to be the same when I copy it over here. So I'm going to choose the center line of the nearby window as the base point. And think of it as picking this window up on a fishing pole and then walking with the fishing pole. So I'm carrying the window over here, and then I'm going to snap right to the midpoint of that window. And you see how it maintains exactly the same spacing. Sometimes you can get just 1 or 2 in place where you want them and then use tools like Copy to quickly replicate them without having to do a lot of extra work. So either method is perfectly valid. You can use whichever one you prefer. But before we leave this file, let's take a look at how things are shaping up in 3D. So you may recall that to get to a 3D view, we can use this little icon right here on the toolbar, this one that looks like a little birdhouse. And I'll just click that, and that will open up the default 3D view. And again, recall that the default 3D view is just right here on the project browser, so that's another way that we can get to it. And also, you may recall that if we hold down the Shift key and drag with the wheel, that we can spin this thing around. And zooming and panning works here as well. So if you want to get a closer look, you can just roll your wheel to zoom in and see how things are shaping up. So for this example, we use the default door and window families that are included in the template we started with. There are many, many more interesting door and window families available. In the next movie, we're going to look at how to load families, and we can load any kind of family, including doors and windows, using the techniques we'll learn there.